Now, the Hunt Palmer Show.
Yes! I feel like I've been waiting for this my entire life.
You're listening to the Hunt Palmer Show on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Jolly good fun. Jolly good.
Locking down the middle of the day.
America's favorite daytime fun show.
Live from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studio. This is Hunt Palmer.
Welcome in. Hunt Palmer coming to you from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studio downtown in the capital city on this Tuesday. Hope your work week's off to a good start. Thanks for hanging out with us here on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. Our two Tuesday regulars will be along, although Sharif's going to be shuffled around a little bit. We'll talk to Sharif in 15 minutes about the New Orleans Saints as things are moving very, very quickly down there on Airline Drive. Saints looking for a new head coach, and that search began over the weekend and will now continue until they figure that out. We'll talk to Sharif about it in 15 minutes. Glenn West, go 24/7 with us in 30 minutes, talking LSU and Missouri hoops, as well as some transfer portal. I want to talk a little bit about the basketball tonight in the Southeastern Conference. We'll do some of that. In hour two, Drew King, PowerMizzou.com, covers the Missouri Tigers for 24/7 Sports. He'll join us to give us the Missouri scouting report on things for tonight's game. 8 o'clock tip from up in Como. I have decided on my pick for the New Orleans Saints' next head coach. I will tell you who that is at 2:15. Plus, 6 Tigers headed to the Senior Bowl. We'll tell you who and what they've got at stake at the end of this month. So plenty to get to on this Tuesday. Lock us in over the next couple of hours. Got Jacob Beck and Cassie Spazzali back there on the ones and twos. Let's get things cranked up with our Genesis opening drive.
It's time for Hunt's Opening Drive, presented by Genesis of Baton Rouge.
LSU and Missouri tonight from Como. It's real cold up there. The high today is like 20. The low is like 0. It's real chilly up there in Columbia, Missouri. But I still think that they'll get a pretty decent crowd up there for this one. They're a pair of 0-1 SEC teams. LSU, the only home team to lose in the SEC on Saturday, as Vanderbilt came in here and won. And Missouri went to Auburn and got blasted by an Auburn team that was throwing in threes from everywhere. I watched the highlights of that game on Sunday, kind of understanding that I would be preparing for this game on Tuesday. And it was just like, goodness gracious, Auburn can shoot. And they were just putting it on Missouri early and often in that game. But it's a Missouri team that's in a bounce-back year under their head coach, Dennis Gates. As y'all probably remember, Dennis Gates took that program over the same year Matt McMahon did, and in year one, he had a great season, 25-10, 11-7 in Southeastern Conference play. They went to the second round of the NCAA tournament, and USA Today actually named Dennis Gates their SEC Coach of the Year. And then came the next year, which was last year, and they went 0-18 in the league. So he brought his Cleveland State team basically over to Missouri with a couple of other transfers, and they had a good year. Everybody left, and they didn't restock the shelves. They were terrible last year, and that was evidenced by their 0-18 start. But they've bounced back this year. They're 11-3, 0-1 in league play, as I mentioned. They lost in the season opener at Memphis, who's a good team. Lost that game by 8. They beat Cal in a shootout, 98-93. Their big win of the season came against number 1 Kansas when they beat the Jayhawks in Columbia, 76-67. Kansas was the number 1 team at that point. They've also lost to Creighton, West Virginia this year. So Bill Self's team, very talented, just figuring some things out early in the year. And in St. Louis, Missouri played a good Illinois team and lost 80-77. So again, 11-3, 0-1 in league play. This is a game where LSU, I believe, has a puncher's chance. When LSU plays Alabama, when LSU plays Auburn, when LSU plays Tennessee, as y'all know, at this point, I'm in no position to even think LSU is going to stay in those games. They may, and I'll be wrong, and I'll come here and tell you that I was incorrect, but that's the way I feel about some of the games at the top of this league. This is not one of those. Missouri has a solid team. Vanderbilt has a solid team. LSU has a solid team. And while I believe Missouri to be a better team than LSU, and I believe this game to be on the road, which is why LSU is a 7.5 point favorite, depending on where you look. Missouri is a 7.5 point favorite, depending on where you look. I think LSU can play in this game if they play a really good basketball game. Missouri has a couple of real MOs that are going to be keys in this game, and they kind of jump off the page statistically. Missouri leads the nation in free throws made per game. They make 21 free throws per game. That suggests a team that attacks and attacks and attacks and attacks. And what else actually lends itself to suggesting that this team attacks and attacks and attacks? Well, they're number 286 in the country in assists per possession. So they're driving to draw contact. They're driving to score at the rim. They're 178th in the country in the percentage of the points they get from three-point range. They don't shoot a lot of threes. In three-point attempts, they're 250th. In shooting percentage, they're 10th in the country, okay? So if you're 10th in the country in shooting percentage, you're not chucking it from the cheap seats. So all of these statistics line up perfectly. This is a team in Missouri that wants to get downhill and go to the bucket. LSU's backcourt was constituted by Matt McMahon for this season to be better on the ball defensively. You brought in Jai Bailey, who doesn't really threaten anybody offensively, especially from the three-point line. He's not a huge assist guy. He's a defensive player. Cam Carter went to an Elite Eight as a starter at Kansas State on a team that prided itself on defense. Jordan Sears, loads of steals last year, playing at a tick lower level at Tennessee Martin. But these guys were brought in to play defense. And LSU's defense has been really good on the first shot this year. Y'all have heard me say this time and time and time again. LSU is in the top 25 in the country in defensive efficiency. They're not in the top 25 in the country in points allowed per game because, one, they play a lot of possessions, and two, because they can't rebound. Now, Missouri's a good offensive rebounding team. They're 66th in the country. And keep in mind, 66th in the country in football is not that great. 66th in the country in basketball, when you talk about 350-plus teams, is high end. But LSU, more so than the offensive rebound in this game, is going to have to keep Missouri from driving the lane consistently. If Missouri does that and gets where they're trying to get on the floor, they're going to hurt LSU badly because LSU doesn't protect the rim especially well. They're okay at it. They're better than they were last year, but not especially well, and they haven't proven they can do it against the high-level teams. They can protect the rim against Stetson. Can they protect the rim against Vanderbilt? Can they protect the rim against Missouri, Pittsburgh? That remains to be seen. Now, you look personnel-wise at this Missouri team, and there are a couple of guys to worry about. Mark Mitchell is their leading scorer. He's a 6'9 junior, and he's listed as a guard/forward. He's kind of a wing, but he doesn't shoot threes. He lives at the free throw line, as you might imagine. He gets there 7 to 8 times per game. Doesn't shoot it great from there. He's only 60%, but he's an attacker and a guy that's going to get physical and get up around the rim. And he's a guy that you're going to have to deal with and you're going to have to stop. Tamar Bates is a senior guard for them, scores 12.5 a game. He gets to the free throw line a lot, and he's 37 for 39 from the free throw line. He makes them all. Not a great three-point shooter, just 33%, but he makes all of his free throws. And then you've got the dead-eye shooter that you've got to be worried about when these guys are putting it on the deck because they're not a big assist team, but at times, Caleb Grill has gone off. And when you make 8 threes against Eastern Washington and 7 threes against Pacific, and you're shooting nearly 50% for the year, that's a guy that you've got to concern yourself with. And that's all he does is just sit there and shoot threes while the other guys drive. So Mark Mitchell is guy number 1 you got to deal with. Tamar Bates, number 2, and then you got to deal with the shooter in Caleb Grill. The fourth guy that I want to mention, and I'm not going to go through Missouri's entire roster, those are the main scores. There's one more guy that's familiar to folks here in Baton Rouge if you've been paying attention the last 4 years. Josh Gray plays for Missouri. He was on Will Wade's last team. He went to South Carolina, played there for 3 years. He's got 1 year left. He's at Missouri. He plays about 15 minutes for him, and all he does is rebound and put in shots around the bucket. Josh Gray for the season is shooting 68%. So not doing a lot of shooting from around the arc and from 15 feet. He's doing all his work around the bucket. He is 7 feet tall and 265 pounds. LSU doesn't have anybody outside of Noah Boyd, who doesn't play and isn't going to play a lot tonight, I'm sure, that can match him physically, and that's a big problem. So for LSU, this is, and look, going into the Vanderbilt game, I gave you the keys. I said they got to take care of the basketball and they got to rebound. Well, they didn't take care of the basketball and they didn't rebound. They shot it fine. They defended on the first shot fine. They didn't do the rest of the stuff. And in this game, they've got to cut Missouri off on the drive. Easier said than done because it's going to be relentless. But that's what these guys are here for. And then you've got to get on the glass. LSU should be okay in terms of creating offense. Missouri's a good defensive team. They're not phenomenal. They do steal the ball a good bit. They're 14th in the country in turnovers forced per game. So what does this boil down to? You're asking Jordan Sears and Cam Carter to play fast. That's what Matt McMahon wants to do. And LSU does play fast. They play really fast. They're in the top 30 in the country in possessions per game. But you can't just go fast for the sake of going fast. Because if you're just going fast for the sake of going fast, you're going to make stupid mistakes like they made against Vanderbilt. And keep that, they were stupid mistakes. Some of those turnovers were completely ill-forced by Vanderbilt. They just weren't. You were trying to go too fast and push it too much. I mean, you're flying down the floor trying to do spin moves in crowds of 3 people. You're going to turn that over 70% of the time. And they did. Push it when it's there, don't when it's not. Jordan Sears and Cam Carter have played a truckload of collegiate basketball games. There's no reason for them to get sped up beyond where they're comfortable. I'm all for LSU trying to push the pace because in the half court, you don't have a lot of front court scoring, so you let teams set their defense and it's tougher to operate. So I get trying to go fast, but you can't just give the ball away 15, 16, 17 times. You've got to be able to create some shots in the half court when things slow down a little bit. So don't turn it over, cut them off on the drives, and try to rebound. Missouri's got a magic number here, and it's 80. When Missouri gets to 80, they're 9-0. When they don't, they're 2-3. When their opponents get to 80, did that backwards. When their opponents score 80, I wrote the note wrong, and now I can't read it. But there's a magic number of 80. I looked at it and went, nope, neither one of those are written down right. It's in Missouri's game notes. I know where I got it from. But either way, when they get over 80, they win almost every time. When their opponent gets over 80, they win almost every time. I believe when their opponents get over 80, they're 1-3. That's what I think. Yeah, when they hold their opponents under 80, they're 10-0. When their opponents get to 80, they're 1-3. There's your note. So 80 is the magic number. I don't think LSU is going to get to 80 tonight. That would surprise me if they got to 80. If they get to 80, LSU is going to make 13 threes. And I just don't see that happening because LSU is not shooting that many threes. Carter and Sears are really the only guys that put threes up on Saturday. So this is a game that I will pick Missouri to win. It's a game I think LSU can win, but they're going to have to do some things that they haven't done against the best teams that they've played. I believe that Matt McMahon will have this team playing better basketball down the road than they did in November, than they are early in January. Jalen Reed's injury is a big, big deal. And we're not going to talk about that a lot because there's nothing you can do about it. But this is one of the games you can get. And if they can get this game, they'll be back on track. You get this game, you're back on track. You lose this game, you feel like going to Ole Miss is going to be really difficult. Now all of a sudden you're 0-3 and you're pretty desperate next Tuesday when Arkansas and John Calipari come to Baton Rouge. You win this game, you go to Oxford, see what you can do, and then you still got a chance to come home and play Arkansas. You don't feel like you're desperate at that point. But you got to start getting a couple of these because y'all are well aware this gets really hairy really quickly. Because I'll give you the stretch that's coming up, and I feel like y'all already know this, but again, I'm here to talk about the team, so we'll talk about it. But after Arkansas, you're at Texas A&M, who's ranked 10th. You're at Alabama, who's ranked 5th. You play Auburn at home, who's ranked 2nd. And then you've got Texas and Georgia. Georgia's on the road. Those teams aren't great. But there's a 4-game stretch in there that's going to be brutal. And you've got to find a way to get a game or two here early. You can't go 0-7 and think you're going to respond to that. You're just not. So we'll see if LSU can go tonight. SEC Network, 8 o'clock. We've still got plenty more to discuss when it comes to this game. We're going to talk to Glenn West briefly about it coming up. And then Drew King, who's with PowerMizzou.com, is going to join us at 2 o'clock to talk about all of it. That's our Genesis opening drive here on this Tuesday. When we come back, Sharif Ishak talking Saints coaching search next.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected, supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals, but many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
Got chores that need some extra muscle, but a large piece of equipment is overkill? That's what John Deere compact utility tractors were made for. Powerful enough for the work you need to do. Compact enough for how you need to do it. Find the equipment that's right for you at Sunshine Quality Solutions. Check out our current promotions and learn more about what it means to be powered by sunshine at sunequip.com.
Dylan Cruz here to tell you about Six Rings Baseball and Softball Camp. If you live on the North Shore and play ball, go to Six Rings Camps with former LSU assistant coach Dan Canaveri. His knowledge is second to none, and your child will improve and have fun doing it. Camps were held at Coquille Park and Six Rings Academy in Covington with 4 sessions over the summer. Full day and morning only sessions are available from ages 7 to 13. Go to sixringsbaseball.com or call 985-206-9096. Learn the game to love the game.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show on 104.5 ESPN, Baton Rouge.
Chugging right along here in a Tuesday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show. Glenn West coming along here in about 15 minutes talking Tigers. Sharif Ishak usually at the bottom of hour number 2, but plug him in right here at 1:15 here on this Tuesday. Joins us on the Jim's Firearms Hotline. Sharif, the Saints season is over. How are we doing?
Fantastic. It feels great. I'm finally happy that dreaded 5-12 nasty season's over with and never have to deal with it again.
It was not good, but it is going to bring about some change. My question is a hypothetical here, but I want you to give me your thoughts on this. Do you believe that this season and the last 4 seasons have created an urgency in the front office to do things differently, or they feel like their process is pretty good, they've just got to get the right guy?
I think I hate to say this, I think I'm going to go with the latter.
Okay.
And I know that's not want to hear because they're so comfortable with what's easy to them, and what's easy is being comfortable. If that makes sense to you, and that's why you keep seeing names like Aaron Glenn pop up, and him being maybe the front runner for the head coaching job. It's because they're comfortable with Glenn since he was in the building from 16 to 20 as a secondary coach. So I, in my opinion, think that's the lazy, easy way out. I think that they should become comfortable at being uncomfortable and doing something different like they did after the Hurricane Katrina season and hire Sean Payton. I think they need someone who is an offensive-minded head coach. That's where the game is today. It's an offensive, it's an offensive game. I think they should do that. And would I be upset if they hired Aaron Glenn? No. I think he's a brilliant, head coach probably in years to come. I think he has a chance to be a good head coach. Look what he's done this year with a beat-up Lions squad that's been almost decimated by injuries. So they can relate there if he's a Saints head coach and dealing with injuries. But I think they need to start thinking outside of that building and that Sean Payton tree and just, gut it inside out and just start over.
Let me drill down deeper on your thoughts on the organization. So if they want to keep doing things the way they've done them, then that would indicate that they don't think that anything is necessarily wrong, which they haven't been good in 4 years since Drew Brees left. And I guess they would have to be pinning this on injuries. The reason things haven't gone well is because they've gotten hurt. Is that what you think they believe at the highest level of the organization?
Yes, absolutely. It's one of the things that Mickey Loomis continues to say after every season that's come to an end the last 4 years. We're there. We're close if we're healthy. Look, man, I think this might be the first year where the players are starting to say we can't use injuries as an excuse. I mean, they're right. This is finally the year that the players have actually said, we can't use injuries as an excuse, even though, like, hey, yeah, we suffered some historical injuries, but we still can't use that as an excuse. I mean, at some point in time, 4 years of saying the same thing, it's almost sounded just like the definition of insanity, doing the same thing over and over again and getting the same exact result. It's got to change. Like, legit, it has to change. I just can't imagine, Gail, Dennis Lauscha, and Mickey Loomis thinking this is fine. It isn't fine. I mean, don't tell your fan base that we're close if. Those aren't like ifs and we're close aren't getting you wins. They're putting you in a worse spot right now. And I think I think a lot of people will agree with this sentiment. It's time to move on. It's time to kind of, do a little rebuild, maybe gut it a little bit. I mean, James Hurst even agrees with that. It's time to gut it because it ain't working and you're getting too old on that roster.
No question about that part. They are getting far, far too old, and the only way to fix that is with the draft. So let's talk about some of the candidates that have popped up with names of folks that are supposedly being contacted and requested for interview. You got Aaron Glenn, you got Joe Brady, you got Mike Vrabel. What is your reaction to some of these names that are trickling out, and have any surprised you?
No, none of them have surprised me. Not at all. I mean, but I'll be honest with you, Mike Vrabel was going to take the Patriots job, so they can just go scratch that one off, all right? Either Patriots or Bears, and he's not coming here. And I also don't like to hear the words people don't want to come here. While I have criticized, the front office and some of the decisions that have been made, I still think they have a good owner. I still think the Saints have a good owner, but it's probably the roster that's scaring a lot of people away. We can go into detail about how I think that, like, people shouldn't be scared to come take this job because look what Dan Campbell did in Detroit. And that was a far worse situation than what the Saints are dealing with. I mean, he took over a disaster, and look where they're at now. So that's my opinion on the Saints situation. So I mean, look, I told you I want an offensive-minded head coach if it were me. I mean, Joe Brady's 35. I mean, little skins on the wall. I mean, he's done a good job, but how will he be? Can he command the room? Can he be a leader? Can he do that, when Josh Allen isn't your quarterback? That becomes the question, So that's where Aaron Glenn comes to the top of the mind because he's had to deal with the injuries. He's, had to build from bottom up with Dan Campbell and Ben Johnson, who, by the way, would be my top choice as the head coach for the Saints, is Ben Johnson. But at least he's been there, seen it, and done it. How would he do here? Can he build a staff? Are they going to force him to keep the offensive staff is also the question. But no, I'm not surprised. I am not surprised at, who's on that list.
Darren Rizzi is on that list. Your thoughts there?
The players love him, man. The players do love him and respect him a lot. They really spoke highly of him since he took over for Dennis Allen, and he even said it again yesterday. I mean, Alvin Kamara vouched for him. He would like to see him as a Nets head coach, but understands the decision isn't on the players. And a very passionate guy. I mean, a Jersey guy, so he's passionate. Loved the team, loved the city, and he got emotional after the game Sunday. About this job and the players and the organization. I just think it's a long shot. He's gonna have a shot, but I believe it's a long shot.
What is the future of Derek Carr?
He said he's not taking a pay cut yesterday. And look, it's not his fault that he's not going to take a pay cut. They're the ones who gave him the money. So if Sharif and Hunt were making $40 million a year, they said, "We need to take a pay cut." I'm not taking a pay cut. Sorry, you gave me that money. Now he's willing to restructure, but he's not taking a pay cut. I don't know, man. I mean, it's going to be a rebuild. I mean, it's going to be a situation where they're probably at 5 wins, 4, 5, 6 wins next year. So maybe they just cut them loose and try to save the money post June 1st cut, and try to save them $28, $29, $30 million. So I wouldn't be surprised if they cut them loose. I mean, it's just not fit.
Another unanswerable question, but I think an interesting conversation nonetheless. What do you think the conversation is like between the candidates who are interviewing with the Saints executives and their discussions about Derek Carr? Do you think the next coach gets to make that call? Do you think they're kind of telling what they think in terms of the salary cap? How do you think that conversation goes?
The conversation has to be like, "Hey, listen, Mickey, do I have to keep him? Are you tied to him?" I mean, we have a ex-head coach has a player in mind that they would like to bring in. We would like to know if you'd let us make the decision on our head quarterback and our staff. I just don't see, Derek fitting on our team if I'm the head coach. And Mickey can fire back with, "Well, we owe him this much money. We have to keep him at least 1 year." And maybe they say, "Fine, we'll do it for 1 year," and they'll just see what happens next year. But I'd assume that coach is going to want the decision on who his quarterback is, because it's Dennis' quarterback. It's not the new coach's quarterback. They may not want that quarterback. Look what Dan did when he went to Detroit. He traded Matthew Stafford and got Jared Goff. He wanted that quarterback, and they got picks in return. They're not getting that. Let's be honest. They are not getting any first-round picks and a Jared Goff in a trade. So I think the new head coach is going to probably say, I don't, necessarily need to have Derek Carr as my quarterback, and we could just go ahead and start working for the future.
It's definitely an interesting time down there in New Orleans, and it'll certainly materialize as the week progresses. I can't get you out of here without a thought on Zion returning to the lineup here for the first time in quite a few weeks, as the Pels are in last. Let's just be clear. What does that mean for New Orleans?
It means, a boost, a much-needed boost that they need in the paint, and someone who can facilitate and drive to the rim, because they've had issues getting consistent drives to the basket. And you get a guy like that back in the lineup. Look, he hasn't played since November 6th. We're talking about 2 months. Yep. And they've gone 4-23 since he's been gone with that hamstring injury. So, yeah, I mean, you can't. I mean, what more? I mean, you get a lot with Zion back. There's nothing that you don't get back with him in the lineup. But I think that, the ability to get to the basket is the number one thing. You need to have that guy who can actually, get to the rim, because that's where they've struggled this year, not having that guy who can get you the fouls and get you those easy layups and dunks. So it's just unfortunate that I don't think Trey's going to be playing day-to-day with that ankle injury, and maybe he plays tomorrow. He hasn't practiced concerning his ankle against the Wizards the other night, but now you have Zion back in, and maybe one day the entire team will be healthy, but it's going to be too late, obviously. The season's already done. I'm just worried about it getting out of hand to where they lose a top 3 or 4 pick at this point.
We'll see. Sharif, we appreciate the time. We'll talk next week and see if the Saints are closer to finding a coach.
All right, but it's going to be a long process. I think it's going to be quite a few weeks before they find a head coach.
I would agree with that. We'll catch up with you down the road. Thanks, man.
All right, Hunt.
Sharif Ishak, WDSU down in New Orleans. I think it is. I agree with him. I think it is going to be a long process. I think it's going to take some time. I think there are absolutely coaches that they would love to interview and would love to have come to New Orleans or meet in person that have playoff games to prepare for. So I don't think you have a coach that's imminently going to be hired, and so we'll have a lot to talk about over the next couple of weeks. When we come back, we'll shift back to LSU, talk some hoops and some football with Glenn West next.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Genesis of Baton Rouge, genesisofbatonrouge.com. These vehicles are incredibly safe. I just want to just lead with that, because I think it's so important these days when people are shopping for a vehicle. what's the safety qualifications? And when you talk about Genesis, you're talking about a line of vehicles that across the board had the same safety features. And all of them were on the IIHA top safety picks list. Some of them were top safety picks plus. They are among the safest vehicles on the road. Not to mention, they're stylish and sleek and comfortable and drive wonderfully well. And they come at a reasonable price. It's a luxury brand of vehicle at a reasonable price. They're on Airline near PQ, just across from Women's Hospital. It's Genesis of Baton Rouge. Every car that is on the lot is online at genesisofbatonrouge.com. So you can browse at the tip of a finger, kind of look through what you're looking for. You can head to the dealership, or they can bring that car to you for a test drive off-site. They can come to the office. They can come to the home. It's just part of being a shopper and a customer and a driver of Genesis over at Genesis at Baton Rouge. Their Airline at PQ near Women's Hospital, Genesis of Baton Rouge, genesisofbatonrouge.com.
At Bayou Automotive, we believe in a sales process that puts you first. We want you to experience an easy purchase with clear pricing and great service. Let Bayou Ford and Bayou Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram be your trusted partners in finding your perfect vehicle. The crew at Bayou Automotive is going to do right by you.
Gulf Coast Bank and Trust is giving our customers the power to bank anywhere, anytime during this challenging event. And we're right there with you. Our mobile banking app is a smart way to manage your money and time. Gulf Coast Bank and Trust, the bank that cares about you.
When it comes to choosing energy for your family and your home, make the smart choice with natural gas. You can count on efficient and affordable natural gas to keep you comfortable and reduce your environmental impact to help protect our planet. Together, we're fueling our energy future. Atmos Energy.
Jerry and Benny Payne began Central Plumbing Company out of their driveway in Tanglewood Subdivision. 50 years later and 4 generations down the road, we continue to serve Baton Rouge and the surrounding areas for all of their plumbing needs. Residential, commercial, industrial, or hospitality, Central Plumbing is here 24/7, 365.
We want to thank our customers, family, and friends for 50 years of success.
And looking forward to 50 more.
BRAC teamed up to reimagine your parks, and you imagined big. With your help, we went to work, creating 12 beautiful community parks across the parish. A family-sized water park, miles and miles of trails, and parks just for your dogs. There are more places to splash, to explore, to run wild, and even soar. You imagined, we delivered. Gold. BRAC, your #1 park system in the nation.
At Ochsner, we know healing is a team sport. That's why we've partnered with world-renowned orthopedic surgeon Dr. James Andrews to create the Ochsner Andrews Orthopedics and Sports Medicine Institute. Whether you're a professional athlete or a weekend warrior, our team of specialists are dedicated to getting you back in the game. So whatever your reasons are for reaching your personal best, we've only got one. You. Ochsner Andrews Institute. Long live you.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show on 104.5 ESPN, Baton Rouge.
On Palmer Show on a Tuesday, Tigers headed up to Columbia, Missouri. Play some hoops tonight at 8 o'clock. Got off to a tough start in league play with a loss to Vanderbilt back on Saturday. Glenn West, Go 24/7 was there. Joins us on every Tuesday at 1:30. Joins us now on the Jim's Firearms Hotline. Glenn, how we doing?
Doing all right, hon. How about yourself? Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you. Doing all right. Not a good start for LSU in league play. Surprised at what you saw on Saturday?
No, I wouldn't say surprised. I would say, it was probably just a good opportunity to see what this team might look like against a in-conference opponent. I think my takeaway is probably not going to be very different from yours or a lot of people that maybe watched that game. First, 20 minutes or so, especially in that first half, LSU just looked really out physical in a lot of different ways, and I thought that was pretty alarming to come out. And I mean, we talked with Cam Carter after the game, and he said, it was a welcome to the SEC moment for all of us. And, to hear that from a guy who's played a lot of big basketball in his career at Kansas State, has played a lot of these tough opponents, that was a little bit of concern to hear. But, I think they were able to pick themselves up in the second half and do some things to get themselves back in the game, even take a lead. But, Vanderbilt got back to what it was doing well in the first half and was able to put LSU away in the final minutes there. So I think I'm not going to sugarcoat it. I'm concerned about this group, in the long term for this SEC slate and just how they're going to be able to hold up physically against these teams, because it's only going to get harder from here. Just watching around the league and just how tough these games have been especially from those top tier teams that you still have on your schedule.
You can't predict injury, obviously, but back in July, I would have told you that an LSU team would lean pretty heavily on Jalen Reed, Tyrell Ward, and Mike Williams, who played well as a freshman last year, and they don't get any minutes from any of them because Jalen Reed is hurt, Tyrell Ward's not with the team, and Mike Williams doesn't play. So how big a deal is that, and how surprising, now that we have hindsight's 2020, but how surprising is that, and how big a deal is that?
I think it's a huge deal. I mean, I'm on these message boards on our 24/7 site, and I'm sure you're on some of them too. But we have some fans out there that are saying it's no excuses this time for Matt McMahon and this program. But I mean, Tyrell Ward was supposed to be coming back as a third-year guy who's had a lot of SEC experience. Jalen Reed in that same boat, and like you mentioned, Mike Williams, I thought was one of your best shooters last year from the outside, and just can't seem to get on the floor. So losing Reed with the injury, Ward before the season, I mean, literally a week before the season, might have even been like that night when they had opening tip, we learned about 10, 15 minutes beforehand that he wasn't going to be with the team. That just throws a monkey wrench into everything, because those are guys that have played in this kind of schedule before and that were going to be really needed to be leaned on at this time of the year. So you could get away with it in non-conference play, and I thought LSU did for the most part. They were able to skate through that non-conference play without much of a hitch, but I thought you saw it in game one against Vanderbilt, against a team in Vanderbilt that's not the tallest, the biggest, the longest, the strongest. They were able to kind of handle LSU in a lot of different ways in that game.
In fact, the shortest and the least long of anybody in the SEC, and they still grab 17 offensive rebounds, which is really, really tough. So you look at tonight, Missouri team that's 11-3, that's going to be on its home floor for the first time in league play. LSU handled itself very well at Kansas State in a true road game. They're going to have to do a little bit more than they did that night to win this one in Columbia. You got a key or two to this one for LSU tonight?
Yeah, I think for me, they've got to find something offensively. I mean, they just lean so heavily on Cam Carter and Jordan Sears, and those two guys, I think, can only carry you but so far. I think they're really good SEC players from an offensive perspective, but you've got to find something from somebody else. And so for me, when you look at it, they're not going to be a very good perimeter shooting team, I don't think, this year outside of those two guys. So you've got to be able to take it to the basket. You've got to be able to draw contact and get to the free throw line. I think that, to me, is the path towards success for this group, is being able to have relentless pressure on the rim offensively, and then just trying to be able to hold up defensively on the other side at the rim as well and grab some rebounds. I mean, sure, the turnovers are going to be a problem all season long. The rebounding is going to be a problem all season long. But what I think LSU can control offensively is getting to the rim. I think they have players that can do that between Carter, Sears, Jai Bailey can certainly do that. I'd love to see Curtis Givens, get a little bit more confidence in his offensive game and start taking it to the rim more. So I think it's going to have to be a team effort here for LSU to go in and get a win at Missouri. This is a Missouri team that's I think similar to LSU in some ways, but they're also longer and they're a little bit, bigger in some respects too. So LSU's got to be able to handle themselves on the glass tonight and make sure that they're putting pressure on the rim offensively. I think is the path towards success for this team.
I feel like Victorious Miller really had a rough go on Saturday.
Yeah.
3 turnovers, only shot at once, and it was a rushed 3. And the turnovers were not very pretty. That had been uncharacteristic for him throughout the month of December. He had played pretty well and scored it pretty well. Do you expect a bounce back from him over the next couple games?
I sure hope so. I mean, one of my biggest points coming in, I wrote a big piece kind of going into the SEC play, was how are these freshmen going to be able to adjust, and how quickly is that learning curve going to kind of set in for them? And it looked like it was a little bit of fast speed for Victorious in that first game. So he's one of those guys that you've got to be able to rely on from an offensive perspective, particularly off the bench. I can't remember how many points LSU had off the bench in that Vanderbilt game, but
4.
I don't think it was many. So they've got to get more of a scoring punch there, and that's the guy that you've got to really lean on. So hopefully he can learn from that first game. Hopefully they can get something more from Givens. I'd love to see Robert Miller continue to get big minutes. I think long term his future is very bright, and I think that he has some untapped potential there offensively to continue growing into this year. So we'll see. I think these freshmen have got to learn quickly, though. They've got to pick things up and really be a bright spot for this team, because they need them. They need everybody on all hands on deck to kind of get through this schedule.
Do they win tonight?
I don't know that you can go into any game here going forward and saying that they're going to win. I think this is as beatable of a team as they're going to face over the next 5-6 weeks. I mean, they have got to get this win. I will put it that way. They have to win this game to kind of give themselves some momentum that they can feel like they can compete in this conference. And to do that on the road, I think would be a pretty good accomplishment here in the first week or so of conference play. So I won't guarantee a win or anything, but I will say that you hate to say do or die at this point in the schedule, but it feels of that magnitude here in this first week.
It's a big one for sure. There's no question about that. Let's transition to football briefly here, as I got you for a couple more minutes. Transfer portal, looks like they're looking for defensive backs. Got a couple that may be headed this way this week, a tight end as well. What do you expect to see over the next couple of weeks as far as portal additions? Maybe not names, but as far as positions go.
Yeah, I think safety is still an option out there for LSU. I think I wouldn't be a bit surprised if there's still a couple guys that LSU's waiting on that's still playing in the college football playoff that maybe they go after whenever they're knocked out or whenever they win. So I would certainly keep an eye on that. But I don't think it hurts to bring in guys and just see kind of where their heads are at and kind of where LSU could potentially see them fitting in. I do think that we're kind of getting to the point here in the portal where you have to be a little bit more selective. I mean, LSU's been going ham in the portal for over a month, and now you've got those 13, 14 guys committed. You only have so many more spots that you can fill, so you have to be very selective. You kind of have to balance that. Do we want to fill that position now, or do we want to be a little bit more conservative and risky and wait for maybe 1 or 2 guys that we're thinking are going to hit the portal that we can really capitalize on? So starting safety, I think, would be the home run hit here over the next week or so. Certainly you could add some tight end depth to kind of help bolster that room, but I think that's more of a want than a need at this point. I do think you can get by with Bauer, Sharp, and Trey'Dez Green if they stay healthy. So potentially another offensive lineman could help, but they're also got a 3 deep at offensive line, just crunching the numbers there. So I think outside of safety, everything else is more of a bolster their unit kind of thing than actual need. And so I do think that's kind of where we're kind of at right now with the portal and LSU.
Looking for portal additions, coverage on recruiting, looking for basketball, baseball, football. Glenn West, Sonny Ship, the whole gang over there at Go 24/7's got you covered. Glenn's with us each and every Tuesday. Glenn, thanks so much for the time.
All right, Hunt. See you on the Twitter board tonight.
I'll be there all over the place. All right, we'll take a time out. We'll come back and preview some big-time hoops in SEC play tonight. We'll preview LSU-Missouri from the Missouri side of things in 15 minutes. You're listening to Tuesday edition of The Hunt Palmer Show.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Video Security Solutions, avssla.com is the website. Check them out on Instagram, avss_BR. is the Instagram handle. Some great pictures and some videos of the great capabilities that they've got, whether it's whole home audio, television installation, video surveillance, all these things they can handle at Audio Video Security Solution. I talked to you about some fairly straightforward things like surround sound, television mounting, burglar alarms, and security systems. All those pretty straightforward. They can do some incredibly high-tech stuff at Audio Video Security Solutions as well. Voice automation is one of those. You want to walk into the living room or the man cave or whatever room it is and say, watch a movie or watch the game, and have the lights dim and the curtains come down and the television come on and the speakers perk up. Like, they can do voice automation at Audio Video Security Solutions. They can make anything really, really easy for you, as they've done in the Palmer House over the last year. Mitchell Fisher is fantastic to work with. It's his company. They're local here in Baton Rouge, and the customer service that we've experienced after the installation has just been first class. It's 225-439-7920. That's not the number to some operator somewhere in Atlanta. That's Mitchell's cell phone number right here in Baton Rouge, 225-439-7920. They are happy to help you out with whatever it is with your electronics at home. It's Audio Video Security Solutions. Find them online at avssla.com.
At Bayou Automotive, we believe in a sales process that puts you first. We want you to experience an easy purchase with clear pricing and great service. Let Bayou Ford and Bayou Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram be your trusted partners in finding your perfect vehicle. The crew at Bayou Automotive is going to do right by you.
The Windsor Senior Living Community in Mandeville, Louisiana is a beautiful, vibrant apartment community geared toward seniors. They are nestled right in the heart of Mandeville, where seniors live a more carefree lifestyle in spacious apartments with the peace of mind that comes from having a little extra help. Call the Windsor at 985-624-8040 to schedule a lunch and tour. Come see how the Windsor can be your passport to peace of mind.
Got chores that need some extra muscle, but a large piece of equipment is overkill? That's what John Deere compact utility tractors were made for. Powerful enough for the work you need to do. Compact enough for how you need to do it. Find the equipment that's right for you at Sunshine Quality Solutions. Check out our current promotions and learn more about what it means to be powered by sunshine at sunequip.com.
Dylan Cruz here to tell you about Six Rings Baseball and Softball Camp. If you live on the North Shore and play ball, go to Six Rings Camps with former LSU assistant coach Dan Canaveri. His knowledge is second to none, and your child will improve and have fun doing it. Camps were held at Coquille Park and Six Rings Academy in Covington with 4 sessions over the summer. Full day and morning only sessions are available from ages 7 to 13. Go to sixringsbaseball.com or call 985-206-9096. Learn the game to love the game.
Jerry and Benny Payne began Central Plumbing Company out of their driveway in Tanglewood subdivision. 50 years later and 4 generations down the road, we continue to serve Baton Rouge and the surrounding areas for all of their plumbing needs. Residential, commercial, industrial, or hospitality, Central Plumbing is here 24/7, 365.
We want to thank our customers, family, and friends for 50 years of success.
And looking forward to 50 more.
Breck teamed up to reimagine your parks, and you imagined big. With your help, we went to work, creating 12 beautiful community parks across the parish. A family-sized water park, miles and miles of trails, and parks just for your dogs. There are more places to splash, to explore, to run wild, and even soar. You imagined, we delivered. Gold. Breck, your #1 park system in the nation.
At Bayou Automotive, we believe in a sales process that puts you first. We want you to experience an easy purchase with clear pricing and great service. Let Bayou Ford and Bayou Chrysler.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show on 104.5 ESPN, Baton Rouge.
Five games in Southeastern Conference basketball tonight. The 6 o'clock window has got 2 of them. The first is a top 10 matchup down in Gainesville, Florida at the O-Dome. Tennessee is at Florida. I'm looking at the ESPN score bug for that game, and 2 things are standing out to me. One, Number 1, Tennessee is an underdog tonight, 3.5 points at Florida. Number 2, it is listed as the Stephen C. O'Connell Center and not Exact Tech Arena at Stephen C. O'Connell Center. So I don't know if Exact Tech bailed or not. I was never going to give them the time of day either.
Dang, man, not Exact Tech.
It was going to be the O-Dome anyway. Like the Tommy Bowl, Thompson Bowling Arena is like City Foods Arena.
Yeah.
There is no shot I am calling it City Foods Arena. That is the Tommy Bowl for now and forever, and that's just what it's going to be. But Tennessee and Florida are going to play tonight in the O-Dome, and that's going to be incredible basketball. Tennessee is really good on both sides of the floor. I think Zakai Ziegler is as good a point guard as there is in the SEC. I don't know what his pro prospects are, but he's been in Knoxville for like 10 years, and he just makes all the winning plays. I could watch that dude play whenever. He hustles. He plays hard. He knocks down threes. He finds open men. He defends. He talks a little bit, but that's okay because he backs it up. And I love watching him play. Florida is just big and physical. I was watching them in that game against Kentucky, and they were going at Kentucky for everything Kentucky was worth. Now, Kentucky had the kid come off the bench and was just raining in threes. But like Clayton had 33 points in the game. He's really, really good. Chinneyu is really, really good as well. Elijah Martin had 26 points in that game. Like they're just big and physical. You watch Florida come out of the tunnel and you realize just how imposing they are. And it's kind of unfortunately the opposite of the way I feel when LSU takes the floor. Like Cam Carter's a really good player. He's kind of skinny. And Jordan Sears is a heck of a player. He's 5'10". And LSU's just not very physically imposing. Damian Collins is like you're big at 6'9", 6'10". He's really skinny. Florida looks like a football team when they come off of the bus. Kentucky will go to Georgia. I would expect Kentucky to handle business in that game. However, the number on it's just 2.5. So that is interesting to me. Mike White's kind of on his last legs here. Not saying that he's about to get fired because Georgia's 12-2, and they could well have a really good year this year, and Mike White would be just fine. But like he had his chance at Florida, and he had a really good start, and then they kind of were mediocre for a while, and he jumped and went to Georgia, and now you've got your chance at Georgia. And if it doesn't go well at Georgia for Mike White, then like that's kind of it for your chances in the big time. He's an Ole Miss grad, a New Orleans native, and wants to be in the Southeast, but if you want to coach at one of the big-time schools, you got to make it stick, and Georgia's a tough job, but we'll see. They're just a 2.5-point dog at home against Kentucky. Auburn, who is a monster, is at Texas in this game. I don't know that Texas is great. That game is at the Moody Center. Auburn is a 10.5-point favorite in this game. Auburn just shoots you just to death. They're so good on offense. They're number one in the nation in offensive efficiency. I told y'all earlier when I was previewing LSU and Missouri, Auburn and Missouri played at Auburn on Saturday, and I watched the highlights of that game on Sunday, kind of get ready for LSU and Missouri, and I was just so taken aback by Auburn's ability to score. And their only loss this year is at Cameron, at Duke, in the ACC Challenge, where they played well and just came up a little bit short. But I would fully expect them to go to Texas and handle business. Now, the other game I will be interested in, it'll be on at the same time as LSU, so I won't watch any of it, but I am interested to see how it plays out. Vanderbilt is hosting Mississippi State. Man, would I feel better if Vanderbilt won that game by 8 points. Like, Mississippi State's good. They absolutely hammered South Carolina on Saturday. And Chris Jans is a really good coach. They defend like crazy. They're once again very, very physical. And I don't think Vanderbilt's one of the better teams in the league. I think they're one of the lesser teams in the league, which makes Saturday's result in the PMAC even like tougher. But if Vanderbilt can, on its home floor, beat a good Mississippi State team that's 13-1 and ranked 14th in the country, that'll make me feel a little bit better. Now, I could also phrase it as LSU is going to be competing with Vanderbilt at the bottom of the SEC, and I need those teams to take as many losses as they want. But I'm kind of into feeling a little bit better in the first week of January, so maybe I'll just take this one game and take a little bit of a solace in it. I guess what happens for LSU and Missouri will probably indicate more about where LSU is than what Vanderbilt does against Mississippi State, but we'll just have to see. State on the road is a 2.5-point favorite in that game. That'll be an 8 o'clock tip on ESPNU. Incidentally, LSU this evening is an 8 o'clock start on the SEC Network at Missouri. 7.5 still the number between LSU and Missouri. If you're looking for my LSU basketball content, you can always find it wherever you find your podcasts or wherever you find your podcasts. It's called Hoops with Hunt. It's the same podcast that I've been doing forever and ever on the same feed. It's just not every day, and it's not in the morning. It's just whenever I do basketball content here on the show. So check out Hoops with Hunt. Resubscribe if you have unsubscribed over the years, and you'll get my LSU basketball content each and every day there at Hoops with Hunt. If you missed any of what we did today on the show in the first hour, you can catch that on demand at 1045ESPN.com's on-demand tab, LouisianaSports.net, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google. Wherever you find your sound, you can always find us. Just search Hunt Palmer Show. Like, subscribe, rate, review. We always appreciate y'all's feedback. Open the show previewing LSU and Missouri this evening from Columbia. Sharif Ishak was aboard at 1:15 to kind of talk about where the Saints go from here, some of the names that he's heard, and what the timeline he thinks may be in order for the Saints to hire a head coach. And then, of course, we had Glenn West on to talk a little LSU as well. Hour 2 is locked and loaded. I've got my pick for the New Orleans Saints head coach position coming up at 2:15. LSU's got 6 players headed for the Senior Bowl. I'll tell you who they are and what that may mean for them. When we come back, Drew King, PowerMizzou.com, going to preview LSU and Missouri from the Mizzou side up in Columbia. That's after SportsCenter on the Hunt Palmer Show.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
At Bayou Automotive, we believe in a sales process that puts you first. We want you to experience an easy purchase with clear pricing and great service. Let Bayou Ford and Bayou Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram be your trusted partners in finding your perfect vehicle. The crew at Bayou Automotive is going to do right by you.
At Ochsner, we know healing is a team sport. That's why we've partnered with world-renowned orthopedic surgeon Dr. James Andrews to create the Ochsner Andrews Orthopedics and Sports Medicine Institute. Whether you're a professional athlete or a weekend warrior, our team of specialists are dedicated to getting you back in the game. So whatever your reasons are for reaching your personal best, we've only got one: you. Ochsner Andrews Institute. Long live you.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets, from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology, from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals. But many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
Got chores that need some extra muscle, but a large piece of equipment is overkill? That's what John Deere compact utility tractors were made for. Powerful enough for the work you need to do. Compact enough for how you need to do it. Find the equipment that's right for you at Sunshine Quality Solutions. Check out our current promotions and learn more about what it means to be powered by sunshine at sunequip.com.
Dylan Cruz here to tell you about Six Rings Baseball and Softball Camp. If you live on the North Shore and play ball, go to Six Rings Camps with former LSU assistant coach Dan Canaveri. His knowledge is second to none, and your child will improve and have fun doing it. Camps were held at Coquille Park and Six Rings Academy in Covington with 4 sessions over the summer. Full day and morning only sessions are available from ages 7 to 13. Go to sixringsbaseball.com or call 985-206-9096. Learn the game to love the game.
Jerry and Benny Payne began Central Plumbing Company out of their driveway in Tanglewood Subdivision. 50 years later and 4 generations down the road, we continue to serve Baton Rouge and the surrounding areas for all of their plumbing needs. Residential, commercial, industrial, or hospitality, Central Plumbing is here 24/7, 365.
We want to thank our customers, family, and friends for 50 years of success.
And looking forward to 50 more.
At Bayou Automotive, we believe in a sales process that puts you first. We want you to experience an easy purchase with clear pricing and great service. Let Bayou Ford and Bayou Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram be your trusted partners in finding your perfect vehicle. The crew at Bayou Automotive is going to do right by you.
Sports Center.
I'm Christine Lisi. The Titans have fired GM Rand Carthon 2 days after finishing a 3-14 season. His 2-year tenure included drafting quarterback Will Levis in the second round last year and a spending spree last offseason. Coach Brian Callahan will return. Tennessee, which does have the top overall pick in April's draft, needs to get one position in particular right, advises Pro Football Hall of Famer Shannon Sharp.
You better have exemplary quarterback play because he's the guy that touches the ball every time, and teams are going to force him to make plays because he's the one guy that you cannot hide. When you don't have a weak quarterback, how do I protect it? Because they'll make you one-dimensional. They'll force you to throw the football, take away your run, and force you to throw the ball.
Shannon Sharp on First Take. Dolphins GM Chris Greer told reporters receiver Tyreek Hill didn't ask for a trade when the two recently met, and that Hill did not walk back comments from Sunday when he hinted he might want to play somewhere else next season. Greer also had strong comments on quarterback Tua Tagovailoa needing to prioritize staying on the field after missing 6 games this season due to injury.
Hey, it's your resident Super Bowl champ, Chris Canty. Coming up Wednesday, the Ravens are heavy favorites against the Steelers. So what would another playoff loss mean for Lamar's legacy? It's Unsportsmanlike, weekday mornings at 6, right here on ESPN Radio, ESPN2, and ESPNU.
Now, the Hunt Palmer Show.
Yes! I feel like I've been waiting for this my entire life.
You're listening to the Hunt Palmer Show on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Jolly good fun. Jolly good.
Locking down the middle of the day.
America's favorite daytime fun show.
Live from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studio. This is Hunt Palmer.
Tuesday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. Check it out over at LouisianaSports.net. We have got a tracker of all the candidates that are reported to be requested as an interview for the New Orleans Saints' next head coach. So you can sift through those names. I've got a name that I think should be the next head coach of the New Orleans Saints, and I'll tell you who that is coming up in 15 minutes. But we spent some time today talking about LSU and Missouri basketball tonight from Como. 8 o'clock tip up there in the Midwest. It is chilly in Columbia, we are told. But they'll be inside tonight playing some hoops, and both teams looking to get their first conference win. Drew King covers Missouri for PowerMizzou.com, part of the 24/7 Sports Network, and he joins us now on the Jim's Firearms Hotline. Drew, thanks so much for the time. How are you?
I'm doing good, staying warm. Very glad that basketball is an indoor sport for sure.
Yeah, it's gonna be real chilly up there, especially for us. We don't do highs of 20 here ever. Like it was like 34 this morning when I left the house, and that's just miserable for me. And that's like 15 degrees higher than y'all are getting all day today. So y'all stay warm up there. But let's see what the basketball has in store for us. Before we get into this year, I'm just curious from your perspective, like what happened last year? The first year under Dennis Gates, very strong tournament team, second round, and then the bottom just fell out. Why?
So I think it's a couple of things. For starters, they had a couple of key injuries to key guys. Caleb Grill kind of had a season-ending wrist injuries 8 games into the year, and obviously he's playing a lot better and has been an important rotation piece for them this season. But then you also look at John Tonje, who was the first guy they signed out of the transfer portal, and he had an ankle injury before the season started and was never really the same guy. And now he's balling out at Wisconsin this season. So losing those two guys on the wing kind of really shortened their depth, which they were hoping would be a strength. But then you look at some of the other guys they brought in, like Connor Vanover and Jesus Carolero. Those guys really didn't pan out. I think that hurt them a lot. And then some of the guys that were returning that they were expecting kind of to take the next step in their development ended up they were asking too much of those guys. Like Nick Honor and Noah Carter weren't really capable of carrying a team the way that Kobe Brown and Demoy Hodge did the way that, a season before. So it was just kind of a pile of things that all came together in one season, and it definitely made it tough.
You look at the non-conference for this team, season opening loss at Memphis in a pretty tight ball game. Obviously highlighted with a win over Kansas, also a win over Cal in there, and then a tight loss to Illinois in St. Louis. How would you assess the non-conference effort from Missouri this year?
Yeah, I think it took them a while to kind of figure out what this team is exactly, and then once they did, now they're at a point where they kind of know what they have to do to win every game. Auburn's really the only one that they've been blown out on any given night. Even the Illinois game was very, very competitive up until the final buzzer. So I think that overall it's been a good non-conference slate for Missouri. The main thing is they didn't take any bad losses, right? They beat Cal. They beat all of the mid-major teams that were on there, and that, I think, was the really important part on top of getting that win over Kansas.
Let's talk about, you said they found out what this team is. Could you sum up what this team is?
Yeah, so I think it's a really physical team. Missouri is number 2 in the country, I think, in free throw rate. They just really use Mark Mitchell as a battering ram to get to the paint, and they have a lot of guys that like to do that. So every game they're getting upwards of 20 free throws, regardless of who the opponent is. And then defensively, they like to just create chaos and be really disruptive. I think they're number 4 in steal rate, so they like to play in the passing lanes, even at the risk of giving up an open shot. They really like to gamble going for steals. So I think that it's a team that has a lot of potential. It just hasn't necessarily had the games to prove themselves yet. So I think Ken Palm's got them right around 50 right now, and I think that they're a little bit better than that.
You talk about the defense. LSU really struggled in the first half with Vanderbilt, who led the country in steals coming into that game, and Vanderbilt got 11 turnovers from LSU in the first half. LSU settled down in the second half and only turned it over 4 times, and they did a good job and actually took the lead before Vanderbilt eventually won the game. Is Missouri a full-court pressing team? Are they a trapping team? Or are they just a team that gets real aggressive in passing lanes?
I would say they get really aggressive in the passing lanes. They'll press occasionally, not too often, but they kind of let Ant Robinson just dictate how they're going to play defense. He's a 6'3", really rangy point guard, and can just be a smothering defender when you let him. He's had a couple of games where he's had 4 or 5 steals this season, and so with him kind of leading the point of attack on defense, it kind of allows everyone else to scoot up on their man a little bit and get their hands in the passing lanes to intercept those passes. So, yeah, like it's not really a press. It's more so like they'll play a zone and then just have Ant Robinson really pressure whoever the lead ball handler is.
It's an interesting matchup there with Ant Robinson, who's 6'3", as you mentioned. Jordan Sears coming in at 5'11", a completely different kind of player. Those two will see a lot of each other in this game with contrasting styles tonight. One player I wanted to ask you about, Drew, somebody that LSU fans are familiar with from 4 years ago, and then his time in South Carolina, Josh Gray, big 7-footer who's played about 15 minutes a game for Missouri. LSU has been atrocious at defensive rebounding this year. Offensive rebounds have killed the Tigers. Do you expect to see a good bit of Josh Gray in this game tonight?
I do, and it's interesting you say that. I was looking at the rebounding rate for both teams, and they're literally right next to each other on defense. So I think Mizzou is 296 and LSU is 295. So neither team is very good keeping the other one off the offensive glass. So that's going to be a really interesting point for this game, I think. But with Josh Gray specifically, yeah, like I think they brought him in because he's somebody who Dennis Gates hasn't really had on any of his rosters before this season. As just a 7-foot, 260 guy who can just shatter the glass, rebounding the ball. I think that they brought him in knowing kind of what his limitations were, and that he was just going to be a situational guy. But given the makeup of LSU's roster and kind of how big their front court is, I could definitely see Josh Gray being an impact player tonight.
You mentioned the defensive rebounding has been a bit of a bugaboo. Anything else that's kind of plagued Missouri, whether it's been in wins or at times where they haven't played as well?
Yeah, I think they're kind of a streaky three-point shooting team. If Caleb, some nights Caleb Grill will go off for 8 for 10 from outside, and then other nights he'll be 0 for 4. And the whole team is kind of that way. They don't have a ton of guys who you can consistently rely on to make their shots. I think Mark Mitchell took 3 last game and made 1 of them, and he's got not the prettiest looking shot in the world, and a lot of times defenses leave him open because of that. So that would be something that I would be a little bit concerned about if I'm a Missouri fan, just not knowing necessarily how well or how accurate this team is going to be from night to night.
What kind of crowd do you think will be on hand tonight? Late tip, chilly weather, but that's a basketball school up there. What do you think the crowd will look like tonight?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think that fans will probably be a little excited just because we're getting into SEC play, and they've had some good attendance this year. But like you said, it's still pretty icy out on the road. It's an 8 p.m. tip on a Tuesday, so it's probably going to be lower than usual for sure.
Well, enjoy some basketball tonight. We appreciate some time, Drew. We'll do it again soon.
Definitely. Thanks for having me on.
Drew King, PowerMizzou.com, part of the 24/7 network that's covering Missouri over there in Columbia. I'm interested in that because I just assume that folks from the Midwest or wherever it is, it's cold outside, but it's basketball season, we'll just still go. Didn't realize that there was some icy conditions on the road. I guess I should know that with the polar vortex and whatnot that's rolling through. It's just not the world we live in around here. I can tell you this: if temps were in the teens, which they will be tonight at Missouri in Baton Rouge, there wouldn't be anybody in the PMAC. I distinctly remember driving to that Ice Bowl game where Johnny O'Bryant and that team beat Kentucky. And I lived, at that point, 2 miles from campus. I lived in the Garden District, right down Park, which turns into Dalrymple. And I remember driving over, black ice, which I'd never really done before, and it was just terrifying. But I got there because ESPN was there and they were going to play, and that was actually a really cool night inside the Assembly Center. But it sounds like, based on his tone, because we know about basketball attendance around here and how it can get a little hairy, I would not expect a full house in Mizzou Arena tonight. So we'll see if LSU can find a way. Based on that interview, a guy that's watched Missouri all year, sounds like you need a bit of a rough shooting night, specifically from Grill, who's been great for them, almost 50% shooting. And you got to find a way to keep Mark Mitchell off the free throw line. That's kind of it. If you can rebound and do that, LSU have a really good chance to win. But it's easier said than done for this Tiger team. So 8 o'clock tip-off tonight, SEC Network, LSU, and Missouri. All right, we've teased it enough. Let's come back. I'll tell you who I think the Saints should hire to be their next head football coach. That's next.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Highland Insurance Group, HighlandIG.com is the website. Speaking of ice storms, that can happen around here. It can cause some roof damage, and you want that covered. Make sure it is from the folks at the Highland Insurance Group. Make sure that your business or your commercial property or your home are taken care of before the incident happens. You should trust your insurance broker like you trust your attorney, like you trust your CPA. You trust your attorney to look over everything and know all the issues that are arising so that they can take care of you. You trust your CPA to look at the books, evaluate things, and tell you where you stand. You should be the same way with your insurance broker. I know I dealt with a lot of business owners that are trying to hide policies. Well, just give me the best you can do. It works better when there's a relationship there and you can speak about what it is that there's a risk for your business, what appetite you have for that risk, and then you can determine what program you need to fit that. Highland Insurance Group is an independent broker. They've got dozens of markets they can place your general liability, your auto, your commercial property, your umbrella, your EPL, all those places. They got multiple options for you there. So trust them to place your commercial insurance in this new year. Check them out online at HighlandIG.com. Jonathan Carver and his team are fantastic to work with. Give them a call. Or check them out online. Highland Insurance Group, HighlandIG.com.
There it is, the extra mile. On the border of expected and extraordinary for those willing to go further. Like vans customized for work or play. With safety and tech to keep you connected. Supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team. And backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets, from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology, from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
Breck teamed up to reimagine your parks, and you imagined big. With your help, we went to work, creating 12 beautiful community parks across the parish. A family-sized water park, miles and miles of trails, and parks just for your dogs. There are more places to splash, to explore, to run wild, and even soar. You imagined, we delivered gold. Breck, your #1 park system in the nation.
At Auctioner, we know healing is a team sport. That's why we've partnered with world-renowned orthopedic surgeon Dr. James Andrews to create the Auctioner Andrews Orthopedics and Sports Medicine Institute. Whether you're a professional athlete or a weekend warrior, our team of specialists are dedicated to getting you back in the game. So whatever your reasons are for reaching your personal best, we've only got one: you. Auctioner Andrews Institute. Long live you.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals. But many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving.
This is the Hunt Palmer Show on 104.5 ESPN, Baton Rouge.
All right. Put that basketball in the rearview mirror for the time being. Let's talk a little bit of Saints football. We are getting reports of the candidates that Saints are requesting to interview. You certainly heard Ben Johnson up at Detroit. You've heard Mike Vrabel, who has been released from his contract with the Browns, where he was a consultant. You have heard that Darren Rizzi will get an interview as well. There are Aaron Glenn, as we mentioned, from Detroit. Like, there have been a lot of names talked about, and I think a lot of those make sense. And none of the names outside of Rizzi, I'll be honest, like, I don't think hiring Darren Rizzi is the answer for the Saints. Like, that would be one of the few hires that I would grab the mic and go, they just don't get it. Because it's not really anything against Darren Rizzi. It's more so that would be against the organization even attempting at turning over a new leaf. Like, you have got to try to turn over a new leaf here if you're the New Orleans Saints. And if you hire the same coach that's been here and he keeps the same offensive coordinator, and it's like, it just doesn't, that's not what needs to happen in New Orleans. So I've surveyed some of the candidates, and I'm confident that I don't know every candidate the Saints are approaching. Certainly not. I mean, I wouldn't have imagined Rex Ryan was a candidate for any job as of 3 weeks ago, and all of a sudden he's all over ESPN and all over Twitter and getting a shot potentially with the Jets, which, by the way, Darren Rizzi reportedly interviewing with the Jets, but that's not of our concern at this point with New Orleans. I've got a name that I've settled on that I think makes the most sense in a number of ways, and it's who I think the next head coach of the New Orleans Saints should be. He's 58 years old. He's got head coaching experience, comes on the offensive side of the ball, and I think would represent a new start for New Orleans. That head coach would be the current offensive coordinator of the Baltimore Ravens, Todd Monken. Todd Monken, as I mentioned, is 58 years old. And as I mentioned, he's got head coaching experience. It's not at the NFL level, but he does have head coaching experience at Southern Miss. That is not necessarily applicable to what you would be doing in New Orleans. Yes, it's on the Gulf Coast. Yes, there's black and gold involved. That's about all the similarity. But he inherited, Todd Monken did, a mess at Southern Miss. In his first year, they went 1-11, 1-7 in league play. In his second year, they went 3-9 and 1-7 in league play. And in his third year, they went 9-5, 7-1 in league play. So he took this team from 1-7 to 7-1 in 2 years at Southern Miss. Again, I am not trying to sell you a bill of goods on how well he can compete in the NFC South because he won at Southern Miss in CUSA. But that is his opportunity to run an organization, to hire a staff, to run his offense, and the results were very, very good. Here's what I think, to me, means a little bit more. He eventually became the offensive coordinator at Georgia. And we know that they had struggled to kind of open things up in the Kirby Smart era. You had Jake Fromm, and they were kind of running the ball, and they weren't necessarily a dynamic offense that was designed to keep up with Joe Burrow and Tua and Trevor Lawrence and all those quarterbacks that were running through Ohio State. They weren't good enough. Well, he came in, and in that first year, the COVID year 2020, he had JT Daniel and Stetson Bennett, and they were a decent football team, whatever. But the second year that he was the offensive coordinator at Georgia was 2021. They were number 9 in the nation in scoring offense with Stetson Bennett. They won the national championship. And then the next year, they were 4th in the nation in scoring offense and won the national championship with Stetson Bennett. Now, Georgia at that point has a better team than everyone else in the country. They've got more high-level recruits. They put more guys in the NFL. Their defenses were hellacious. But with the help of Ladd McConkey and Brock Bowers and some of those solid players early, you had a really good offense that was in the top 10 in the country with Georgia. And then he moves on to Baltimore. And at Baltimore, you take a team that, yes, has a lot of talent, but you went from top 10 in the country in offense with Stetson Bennett to calling plays for Lamar Jackson. I can't think of two guys with less similar skill sets. One is a freak of nature who won the Heisman Trophy, who can run like a deer and is an elite passer and is just an incredible athlete. The other is a walk-on that I wouldn't notice if he was standing next to me at McDonald's. And he produced with both of them. You look at 2023 with the Ravens and Lamar Jackson, 6th in the NFL in yards per game, 1st in the NFL in rushing, 4th in the NFL in scoring offense. And then this past year, well, not this past year, this year that just ended 2 days ago, 1st in the NFL in yards per game, 1st in the NFL in rushing, and 3rd in the NFL in points per game. Added Derrick Henry to the mix, it got even better, and everything went swimmingly. But on his resume, I've got play calling that transformed a college football program offensively and took them into the next era with a limited quarterback. Then a move up to the NFL with a transcendent quarterback, an MVP quarterback, and excellent production there as well. And then you go back and realize that he has run the show. Recruiting and hiring coaches at Southern Miss and playing games against Marshall and Louisiana Tech and Rice and whoever they were playing. Yeah, that's different. I got it, and I'm not trying to immediately point to his 7-1 CUSA record and go, see, he can win the South. But I look at Todd Monken, and I like the resume. And what have most people said about this Saints head coaching search? Well, they're not going to be able to get Mike Vrabel. He's going to New England. They're not going to be able to get Ben Johnson. He's going to go to the Bears. They're not going to be able to pick their guy. Well, okay, but what if Todd Monken's like 4th or 5th on everybody's list? I think this makes a lot of sense. I don't think that Todd Monken is going to be among the top of the list for Jacksonville, for the Jets. Maybe I'm wrong. I certainly could be wrong. But this guy's resume is really, really good. The question is, does he want to take this job? There's an interesting piece to this whole thing that I can't necessarily paint the right picture of because I don't know what these meetings between the Saints executives and these prospective head coaches are going to be like. How much of it is recruiting that coach? How much of it is that coach selling himself to the Saints? We've kind of painted it as the Saints are going to have to do some real recruiting, make some promises, because they're not real desirable. It feels like if you're the Bears and you've got Caleb Williams, potentially some people would just throw themselves at that. Now, I painted the picture back 2 weeks ago saying, hey, all these jobs have their issues. Woody Johnson, not done a great job as the Jets owner. That whole situation and culture there, not great. The Bears have been an absolute mess for decades. Every once in a while, they pop one good team. They got to the Super Bowl with Grossman. They had a couple good years with Cutler. The double doink team was decent. But it's been a mess because the McCaskey family and then what comes under them, which is right now Kevin Warren and Ryan Poles, who kind of share important duties and nobody really knows who's calling the shots. Like, that's a mess too. Jacksonville, mess. Got to spend 2 weeks in London. Owner is all over the place. Trevor Lawrence, like, there are issues everywhere, okay? So I don't know how much has to be a sales pitch from the Saints, how much has to be the coaches that come in selling themselves to the Saints. But to me, I look at this resume from Todd Monken and I go, this could be something that's really good. I agree that I like the idea of going with an offensive coach. I think if you were to hire Ben Johnson, that would be fantastic. I'm also of the school of thought that I think Mike Vrabel would be a great addition if he's not in New England. And Aaron Glenn, I'm not going to go kicking and screaming on. Rizzy's probably the only one that I think that's just ridiculous. But there's not a lot bad on Todd Monken's resume. It started at the college level. He wound his way around at LSU in the early 2000s. But for the last, more than a decade, he's been either in control of the entire organization or calling plays and scoring a lot of points. And to me, that sounds like a guy that makes a lot of sense as an ex-head coach. So I'm officially planting my flag. I got Todd Monken as the next head coach of the Saints. That's the guy I think would make a ton of sense. We'll see how this thing shakes out over the next few weeks, but that's where my head is right at this moment. Jacob Beck, you have heard my sales pitch. You've heard me talk about Todd Monken and his credentials. You've kind of heard me compare the Saints to the rest of the league. They're hiring coaches. Your thoughts?
I would definitely be pretty happy with Todd Monken. But I think that the Saints are just going to, as Sharif said earlier, like they continually have showed us, and until proven otherwise, that they just like to make moves that they're comfortable with. And so I fully expect Aaron Glenn to be the next head coach of the Saints. I think a lot of people are going to say that, and it just makes a lot of sense. But I hope that they go out and get somebody like Todd Monken or I don't know about somebody like Joe Brady, who hasn't really been in the league very long and has proven to be obviously, pretty good calling plays for the Bills with Josh Allen. But is he going to be good calling plays for either Derek Carr or, rookie quarterback number 2? So that I'm not sure about. But I think a guy that's proven himself like Monken would be good. But yeah, I don't expect them to go too far out of the box. But maybe they'll prove me wrong. Hopefully they do.
We'll see. I think this is going to go on 3 weeks
at least.
My guess. Kind of depends on what
happens to the
what
Lions.
happens in the playoffs with teams. I mean, look, Monken's calling plays, Brady's calling plays, Glenn's calling plays, Johnson's calling plays. They're all calling plays. Vrabel's the only guy who's just hanging out. So you can grab him whenever it is that you'd like. And Rex Ryan, pretty much hanging out. You can grab him whenever you want to. But everybody else is kind of tied up at the moment. So we'll see how that shakes out over the next 3 weeks or so. All right, when we come back, we still got half an hour to go here on this Tuesday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show. LSU has got 6 Senior Bowl participants. I want to talk about those and one that announced today that I didn't know was eligible for the Senior Bowl, but he is. So we'll talk about that coming up next.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Boudreaux's Electrical Services. Neil and Melissa have been running Boudreaux's Electrical for 40 years. They're a certified Generac generator dealer, a premier Generac generator dealer. Sometimes it gets cold enough to where the power goes out. That happens around here. It happened a year ago this time. Certainly, we know in the summertime, power outages are frequent around here. Give yourself the peace of mind to know that the power is not going to go out on you. Boudreaux's electrical installations are done by full-time employees. They use the highest quality in tubing and wiring, and most of that installation is done underground so that it looks nice outside your home, and of course, it functions well. And if there's some sort of malfunction, whether it's time for your generator to spring into action or not, Boudreaux's Electrical will know about it because they monitor your generator 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and they'll have one of their 10-plus technicians come out, make sure everything's on the up and up so that when the power in your neighborhood goes out, your generator comes on and you are good to go. Give them a call at 985-397-1562. It's 985-397-1562 or 225-300-9389 in Gonzales. That's 225-300-9389. If those are too difficult for you to remember because you're driving around but you want a Generac generator from the folks at Boudreaux's Electrical Services, go online, boudreauxelectrical.com, and get things started today. boudreauxelectrical.com.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
Jerry and Benny Payne began Central Plumbing Company out of their driveway in Tanglewood subdivision. 50 years later and 4 generations down the road, we continue to serve Baton Rouge and the surrounding areas for all of their plumbing needs. Residential, commercial, industrial, or hospitality, Central Plumbing is here 24/7, 365.
We want to thank our customers, family, and friends for 50 years of success.
And looking forward to 50 more.
Breck teamed up to reimagine your parks, and you imagined big. With your help, we went to work, creating 12 beautiful community parks across the parish. A family-sized water park, miles and miles of trails, and parks just for your dogs. There are more places to splash, to explore, to run wild, and even soar. You imagined, we delivered. Gold. Breck, your #1 park system in the nation.
At Auctioner, we know healing is a team sport. That's why we've partnered with world-renowned orthopedic surgeon Dr. James Andrews to create the Auctioner Andrews Orthopedics and Sports Medicine Institute. Whether you're a professional athlete or a weekend warrior, our team of specialists are dedicated to getting you back in the game. So whatever your reasons are for reaching your personal best, we've only got one. You. Auctioner Andrews Institute. Long live you.
Looking for the ultimate game day experience? Come to the Queen Casino in Baton Rouge. Savor game day platters and snacks, plus drink specials at $17.17.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show on 104.5 ESPN, Baton Rouge.
It was announced earlier this morning that Mason Taylor has been invited and has accepted the invitation to the Reese's Senior Bowl. And you may be saying, well, I think he's a junior. You would be right. But last year, prior to the 2024 edition of these college all-star games, it was deemed that draft-eligible juniors would be able to play in these all-star games and showcases. And so 15 played in the Senior Bowl this past year, and that number may grow this year. Mason Taylor was added to that number today, and that means that 6 LSU players will be in the Reese's Senior Bowl. That is second to only Oregon. So great representation down there, and our station will certainly be there. T-Bob and Jake always do a phenomenal job all week long from the Senior Bowl, which is the last week in January. We send Ribs down there as well to do some running for us, and it's a great week of content for us here on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge, and so very much looking forward to what they see from the LSU Tigers this year. I mentioned Mason Taylor. You'll see Emory Jones there, Garrett Dellinger there, Miles Frazier there, Kyron Lacey there, as well as Savion Jones from LSU. So a really high-profile group of visitors from LSU. And I think there's a lot to gain for all these players. I don't see a first-round pick among that group. Certainly Emory Jones could be, but I don't anticipate that he will be at this point. I think that it's interesting to see where Emory Jones works out at the Senior Bowl. We'll talk about it more when it shows up, but there's a lot of talk of Emory Jones potentially moving down to guard at the NFL level. I think it would make a lot of sense for him to work out at guard. He has put a lot, 3 years of SEC tape at right tackle out there. He wants to kick down to guard. I think that would be a really good thing for him over the course of that week. I was doing a Pro Football Focus piece for LouisianaSports.net yesterday and found out that Garrett Dellinger posted the second highest pass blocking grade on the LSU team for the season. The first highest was not Will Campbell, it was Miles Frazier. So LSU's 2 guards this past season did an incredible job in pass protection, and you saw Miles Frazier go out and play tackle in the bowl game against Baylor. He also played tackle at Florida International, his first collegiate stop. So that's another guy that I think could take some reps at other places, and if he wants to take some reps at tackle, I think that would be good. Versatility for offensive linemen is so critical. I mean, just look at the New Orleans Saints and what they've done over the year with some of their guys, like Andrews Pete, who's gone in and out, played in and out. That's just, it's so valuable, and you're able to stick on a roster so much longer if you're able to do multiple things. Landon Young has stuck around with the Saints with the ability to play inside and outside. So I think that this is a great week for potentially those 2 guys, Emory Jones and Miles Frazier, to get a look at both spots. I fully expect Garrett Dellinger to be a guard. Maybe he can work out at center. He did a little bit of that at LSU, so that would be another thing that would be very beneficial to him. So I think those guys have so much tape. Emory Jones, Garrett Dellinger, and Miles Frazier have started LSU for 3 years. So, the tape is out there. They kind of know what you can do at that spot, at that level with these guys in the SEC. But if you can go to the Senior Bowl and show a little bit more versatility, I think that's a big thing. I think that as far as Mason Taylor goes, I guess he can stand to gain a little bit in this. But, you're talking about a guy who has been ridiculously productive his entire time. I don't think he's going to set the combine on fire with his speed when he goes. I don't think he's going to measure at 6'7". In fact, I know he will not. He just is what he is, a super productive guy, but certainly not going to turn down an opportunity to compete. Kyron Lacey has got to show he can consistently beat man coverage and make catches. He's never going to run in the 4.3s. He's a good athlete, not a great one, and that's a guy that you're going to have to – the tape is going to have to prove to you that Kyron Lacey is what you hope he could be, and the Senior Bowl is certainly a great time for that. So I think it's a big spot for Kyron Lacey to get in those one-on-ones and win some of those reps against those senior college corners. As far as Savion Jones goes for LSU, this time last year, I had kind of given up on Savion Jones. I really believed, and I think I've said this a number of times, that you were looking at a kind of a lineage from Arden Key to Caleb Chason to B.J. Ojolari, and then Savion Jones would be next. There's kind of a list of that big, rangy edge player that really does a great job off the edge for LSU, especially rushing the passer. And Savion Jones had been on campus for 3 years and had never really done anything. And then Kevin Peoples had 1 year with him, and not that Savion Jones became a force rushing the passer, but he did do a better job against the run and flash a little bit as a pass rusher. So for me, this is a great opportunity for Savion Jones to go line up with some of the best tackles in this draft class and see what he can do in one-on-ones and in-game reps and practice reps. It's a big, big spot for him. I think that he probably of this group has the most to gain. I think I would put he, Kyron Lacey, and Emory Jones in that group. I think Garrett Dellinger and Miles Frazier kind of are who they are, though I did mention that Frazier could potentially go out and do a little bit more on the outside. But in any event, like, I'm excited for these guys to get to go one more time to put on that LSU helmet, and then for us to have such a great presence there at the Senior Bowl to get updates on how this is all going. It's a great thing for LSU to have this many guys that are going. I certainly do not believe that Jim Nagy's just throwing the LSU kids a bone because he comes on our pregame show for Guarantee every week and has a great relationship with our station that goes. I think he realized that these are pros that you're looking at here at LSU, but where they get drafted, how high they're selected, ultimately going to come down to kind of how things go over the next few months. There's a lot of tape on all these guys. All these guys have played a ton of football. Can you do anything here or there in the final spring before the draft to catch somebody's eye and move up and get a better spot in the NFL as far as your draft position goes? I'm interested in it. I did not know that Mason Taylor was eligible to play in the game, but I'm glad he is because I want to see him in that gold helmet one more time. Although, who knows? Half these guys may wear white helmets. That is a story for very much another day. But again, Emory Jones, Garrett Dellinger, Miles Frazier, Kyron Lacey, Savion Jones, and Mason Taylor, 6 LSU Tigers headed to the Senior Bowl. Only Oregon, who has 7 at this point, has more players currently committed to play in that game. So we'll step aside one more time. We'll take a timeout, come back and close things out. You're listening to a Tuesday edition of The Hunt Palmer Show.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Genesis of Baton Rouge, genesisofbatonrouge.com is the website. How about 3 years of complimentary maintenance? How about a 10-year, 100,000-mile warranty? How about a luxury vehicle experience at a reasonable price? That's the entire reason the Genesis brand was founded. Their brand ambassadors over there at Airline and PQ are phenomenal to work with. They're right across from Women's Hospital. Stop on by. First of all, the dealership is just a first-class facility. The ambiance is phenomenal. It's very, very comfortable. The coffee machine is second to none. You can make any kind of coffee you could possibly think of in there. Got some snacks as well. The Wi-Fi is good. It is clean. It is quiet. It's a great place to get some work done if you want to stop off and have your car serviced there. Or if you want to just stay at work, have your car serviced remotely, they can come get it, valet it right back, handle your maintenance, 3 years complimentary, and drive it right back to you. There's so many reasons to be a Genesis of Baton Rouge driver, but you got to go by and see them or check them out online to get that process started. Every car on the lot is online at genesisofbatonrouge.com, genesisofbatonrouge.com.
The Windsor Senior Living Community in Mandeville, Louisiana is a beautiful, vibrant apartment community geared towards seniors. They are nestled right in the heart of Mandeville, where seniors live a more carefree lifestyle in spacious apartments with the peace of mind that comes from having a little extra help. Call the Windsor at 985-624-8040 to schedule a lunch and tour. Come see how the Windsor can be your passport to peace of mind.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals, but many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
Got chores that need some extra muscle, but a large piece of equipment is overkill? That's what John Deere compact utility tractors were made for. Powerful enough for the work you need to do. Compact enough for how you need to do it. Find the equipment that's right for you at Sunshine Quality Solutions. Check out our current promotions and learn more about what it means to be powered by sunshine at sunequip.com.
Dylan Cruz here to tell you about Six Rings Baseball and Softball Camp. If you live on the North Shore and play ball, go to Six Rings Camps with former LSU assistant coach Dan Canaveri. His knowledge is second to none, and your child will improve and have fun doing it. Camps were held at Coquille Park and Six Rings Academy in Covington with 4 sessions over the summer. Full day and morning only sessions are available from ages 7 to 13. Go to sixringsbaseball.com or call 985-206 9096. Learn the game to love the game.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
Jerry and Benny Payne began Central Plumbing Company out of their driveway in Tanglewood Subdivision. 50 years later and 4 generations down the road, we continue to serve Baton Rouge and the surrounding areas for all of their plumbing needs. Residential, commercial, industrial, or hospitality, Central Plumbing is here 24/7, 365.
We want to thank our customers, family, and friends for 50 years.
This is the Hunt Palmer Show on 104.5 ESPN, Baton Rouge.
The Hooters College Football Bowl Pick'em Challenge presented by Yingling is underway. Make sure to check the leaderboard in your inbox to see if you qualified for the final round of picks and your shot at $1,000 in cash and a $200 gift card from Hooters. Our grand prize winner will be notified January 13th. It's the Hooters College Football Bowl Pick'em Challenge presented by Yingling at 1045ESPN.com.
So the Raiders hired John Gruden once upon a time. And
they did?
They fired him amid the emails that were floating about, and they hired Josh McDaniels, and they immediately fired him. And they let Antonio Pierce coach, and then he coached another year, and they now fired him. They just fired Antonio Pierce, so more competition for the New Orleans Saints. I'd really like to go to Mark Davis, the owner of the Raiders, and just ask a simple question. Like, Mark, do you think you're any good at this? Like, do you think you're any good at all? Your teams are terrible every year. You're firing a coach every 15 months at this point. Like, you're clearly completely incompetent in running this. The Saints are far from perfect, trust me. And I wish they would shake things up a little bit more than they do. But when you're an organization like the Raiders, like basically the Bears, that just has to fire a coach every 20 minutes, there's clearly so much dysfunction. And I'm so interested, like, at the amount of ego and the insistence, I'm certain that, well, I'm doing a really good job. Like, they asked Jerry Jones, like, are you going to ever, like, let somebody else be the general manager? And he was like, no, I'm never going to let anybody else be the general manager. I said this when I bought the team in the 80s. I said, look, I bought this not as an investment, as an occupation. And I didn't buy it for my kids. I bought it for me. So I'm going to do it. And they just, hadn't quite gotten it done. But the Raiders are a mess. And again, as we talk about this state of the Saints, and I don't know, I mean, this just came across the wire, so I haven't had time to like prep a segment and go, okay, how do the Saints stack up with the Raiders? I don't know. I don't know what their salary cap situation is. I know they got no quarterback. They got an owner who, quote George Costanza, fires people like a bodily function, and they never win anything. So it's a cool place to live, probably. Vegas seems cool. But that, to me, doesn't seem like an awesome opportunity for somebody. I realize I detailed all the shortcomings of all the jobs that are in competition for the Saints. I could be sold pretty quickly on being the head coach of the Patriots. I could be sold pretty quickly on being the head coach of the Bears. You could even sell me on Jacksonville to an extent. You can't sell me on the Raiders. Like that looks like a terrible spot to go be a coach. And I just could not work for Mark Davis, who, he wins the genetic lottery. That's why he's got the team, not because he did anything else. So they fired Antonio Pierce, and we'll see where things go for Las Vegas from there. We don't have much time left. I do want to briefly talk about LSU basketball before take it or leave it here. Tonight, 8 o'clock, SEC Network. We've talked about it a good bit over the course of today's show. I'm going to pick Missouri to win the game. I just don't have confidence in LSU right now. sans Jalen Reed going on the road in league play to get it done. I gave you in the first hour kind of the guide to LSU winning the game. You've got to keep Missouri off the free throw line. They make more free throws than anybody in the country. You've got to protect the ball. Missouri's top 5 in steals rate, and you did no such thing against Vanderbilt, turning it over 11 times in the first half. And Missouri's not a good rebounding team. You've got to go get rebounds. And LSU did not rebound against a terrible rebounding team in Vanderbilt. So I'm hopeful. I'll be locked in. I think there's a chance they can go up there and win this game. And there will be multiple games this SEC season over the span of 17 more where I tell you, yeah, they got no chance today. They got no chance on Saturday. There will be some of those. Tonight's not that. So I'm hopeful. I've got a preview story up for those that missed our segment up at LouisianaSports.net. That kind of goes through some of the key stats in this game and what I'm looking for out of LSU. And I will certainly have a post-game story written up at LouisianaSports.net tonight. That'll be pretty late, probably close to 11:30 or so with an 8 o'clock tip-off that'll end at about 10. And then I'll have to get things written and posted. So you're looking at about 11 o'clock there. But Tigers and Mizzou, I think Mizzou probably wins this game by 5 or 8 points, kind of like Vanderbilt did. But I hope to be completely wrong when we do this tomorrow. Beck, we got some take it or leave it?
Yep.
Take it or leave it.
Take it or leave it.
Today's hottest stories in sports, news, and sometimes even Hunt's life. The question is, will he take them or leave them?
Just take it.
All right, first one here. Chicago Bears general manager Ryan Poles said, quote, "We will look at all avenues to get the best coach here." Some people are connecting that to the rumors that Vikings head coach Kevin O'Connell might be on the trade block, if you will. Apparently, there are teams that have interest in potentially trading for him, not too dissimilar to what happened with Sean Payton and the Broncos. The Bears would trade for a head coach. Take it or leave it.
I will take that.
I'll take
it. If you think you've got the right guy and you got to trade for him, yes. I just can't imagine the Vikings thinking it's a good idea to trade their coach to a division rival. That doesn't. The Saints weren't dealing Sean Payton to the Bucs. That wasn't going to happen. That's why when all the Brady smoke, all that kind of was going on, that was never going to happen. Certainly not going to trade him to the Falcons either. So, yeah, I believe the Bears are going to try to explore all avenues. The question is who's exploring those avenues, because I think I know more about this than most listeners because I've got all that Chicago on my feed and whatnot. Like, Kevin Warren is like right under the ownership, and then Ryan Poles is right under him above the coach, and everybody thinks like Kevin Warren's really calling the shot, but Ryan Poles is doing the press conferences. It is a complete mess in Chicago. But yeah, if they had an opportunity to trade for a coach, as long as it didn't involve trading Caleb Williams, I think they would absolutely do it.
All right, Hunt, your favorite golf league has announced their schedule for the 2025 season, Live Golf.
Shut up.
They will have 14 tournaments in 9 countries, including 6 in the U.S.
How many countries? Make them out of the U.S.
And a new location for the season-ending team championship.
Where's that?
So they will be playing at Trump National Doral outside Miami for their first tournament of the season. And it's also the same week as the Masters. So you know there's going to be a lot of people tuned in for that.
Wait a second. That can't be right.
Yes.
There's no way.
Oh, it's the week before the Masters.
I was going to say, that's all their real players are playing in the Masters.
Yeah.
That doesn't.
But
they can't do
the season-ending team championship hunt will be staged at the very, very famous The Cardinal at St. John's in Plymouth, Michigan, which opened last year. So there you go. The Live Golf schedule. Take it or leave it.
I will leave it.
Leave it alone.
And you knew that when you typed that question out and read it on the air.
Yeah, I did.
Stupid league. I thought you were going to talk about the TGL, which is teeing off tonight.
Oh, yeah. How do you feel about the TGL, Hunt?
LSU's playing basketball tonight. I'm not going to watch golf on a simulator. I'm not telling you I would never watch it under any circumstance, but I'm not too compelled by it at this point. Like, I like to go hit into a golf simulator. I don't necessarily need to watch Justin Rose hit into a golf simulator. But good for them for trying. I would watch that for 48 hours straight before I watched 10 minutes of a Live tournament. That's a fact. I've still never seen Live hit a shot. Very proud of that. Will not happen.
Wow.
Of course, I don't know if I have the WB or YouTube, whatever they have.
No, they stream it on YouTube, but man, what a man of integrity you are.
That's
Hunt.
me. I am the pillar of integrity.
Never watched a single second of Live
Isn't Greg
golf.
Norman out by now?
Yeah, I think they got him out, yeah.
Idiot.
All right, last one. The Tennessee Titans fired general manager Ron Carthon, but retained head coach Brian Callahan. Retaining your head coach, but firing your GM. Take it or leave it.
Leave it. I mean,
leave it alone.
Now you got a head coach who's the GM didn't hire him.
Yeah.
And then what are they going to go out there and lose a bunch of games next year? What are his odds of keeping his job? None. So, yeah, that doesn't work. That's the same thing the Bears have been doing. They were going through GMs and coaches and quarterbacks, and it's just a vicious cycle, and they couldn't get out of it. I mean, that's not something the Saints have had to deal with, but it's still not ideal. It's hard to function in an NFL franchise. There are a lot of moving pieces that have to work in concert. It's very difficult, but a lot of teams and a lot of organizations are really, really bad at it. I wouldn't suggest the Titans have been a terrible organization like I would say the Raiders have, but yeah, that's just not a winning situation there to get rid of your GM and to have a new GM come in with a coach that's not his. So that's our thoughts on all of that. That's take it, leave it here on this Tuesday. We got tons to do on tomorrow's show. We'll recap LSU and Missouri on the hardwood. We will certainly get you up to date on anything we hear on the Saints coaching search. Have J.D. Pickell previewing the college football playoff, which is coming up here in a couple of days. It'll be a What If Wednesday for the first time in a month, it seems like, because we've had no shows the last 2 Wednesdays with Christmas and New Year. So we'll get back into a rhythm with that and much, much more. Matthew Bruni will come on with us as well, as he does each and every Wednesday. So tons to get to on Wednesday. Should I do SEC basketball power rankings back? Is that something we need to get into tomorrow?
Well, Hunt, you did it. You did it the first week before SEC play for football. So SEC play's already started basketball. So I think you got to go ahead and get it going here.
Where do I rank LSU?
I would guess 13.
We'll have to see. I think we'll probably do it on tomorrow's show. Missed any of today's show? Catch it on demand, 1045ESPN.com's on demand tab, or LouisianaSports.net, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you find your sound. You can always find us. I previewed this Hoops game at 1 o'clock and 1:30 and 2 o'clock at different variations. Talk to Sharif Ishak about the Saints and the Pels at 1:15. You can find that on YouTube or wherever you find your podcast at Hunt on Saints. And then my pick for the Saints head coach. You can also find that at Hunt on Saints. Matt's going to drive you home coming up next on AFR. We're back tomorrow, same time, same place. It's the Hunt Palmer Show.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
One Bath and Closets. OneBathAndClosets.com is the website. David Duvall and his team, 30 years redesigning and remodeling bathrooms and closets. Safety is a big, big deal in the bathroom. And it's something I tell you about a couple of times a week when I'm talking to you about One Bath and Closets, because most of us have folks in our lives that are aging, and the bathroom can be a very, very hazardous place. Let David Duvall and his team come in and at least mitigate that risk by putting in non-slip floors, by putting in walk-in tubs that are more convenient and safer, by putting guardrails in some slippery areas, by putting benches in the shower. These are things David Duvall and his team do all the time. And if you haven't given that any thought, please do as we get into the new year. If there's someone in your life that's aging and may need some help in the bathroom, David Duvall and his team are happy to do that. You can start your process with a free consultation online. You can also see pictures of their fantastic work. You can see their satisfied customers and all those reviews. It's all online at onebathandclosets.com. One Bath and Closets. They're online at onebathandclosets.com.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary, for those willing to go further, like Van.